Well, good day to you. It is February the 6th. I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are. My name is Gary Willing, and as always, I want to welcome you to Search for Signs. And as always, I just want to point out, if you want to know more about Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom, if you want to get some of your questions answered, you can do it yourself by investigating this information for yourself. If you check out the description portion of every one of these videos, there are links that take you to websites that talk about this information in some way. I put them in there because I think they're pretty useful. But the most effective way of getting all the information you need about Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom is on the Share International site. Link is in the description. So hopefully you'll take time to do it. It's all free and it's there for you whenever you want to do it. If you want to get some of your questions answered through me, you can ask me the questions by emailing me at searchforsignsofmail.com. You can post your questions in the comment section, or if you just want to tell me what you think about what I had to say, post your comment. And I love comments, even though you might not agree with everything that I say. I don't expect that, but I want to thank everybody who has commented and asked a question since the last time I put a video up. All right, now I'm going to start with James Wambidi. What did you have to ask? There is some confusion regarding Lord Maitreya's present position in the spiritual hierarchy. Is he still in the position of the world teacher Christ, or the second position of the Buddha? Well, according to my limited understanding, and this is just coming from what I've read in Benjamin Creme's books and what he used to say in the lectures and so forth, is that Maitreya is the head and leader of the spiritual hierarchy on this planet, which is the center right above, and the kingdom right above humanity, where most people are unaware of it, the fact, but we are all evolving and inwardly aspiring to eventually become a master, just like they are masters. Not all masters stay on this planet. Once they do become a perfected member of humanity, they oftentimes go to other planets or even other solar systems for higher work, but some masters choose to stay on this planet. They stay as members of the spiritual hierarchy. Maitreya is the head and leader of that because he holds the post and the position of the Bodhisattva, or a world teacher. But that part is just a post, or it's just an office. He was the world teacher throughout the age of Pisces and will be again the world teacher for this upcoming age of Aquarius, and won't leave the humanity and for another 2,150 years, I think. And then he will go off to higher work and come back when the last members of humanity become masters, like they are masters, and he will basically finish off the initiation process of humanity. So when he said in the Bible, "I'm the Alpha and the Omega," he meant it in several different ways, and one of the inner meanings behind him saying that was he was the first of our humanity to become to take the initiations to become a master, and then eventually become a master. And he will be the last of humanity to finish up those initiations on this planet. Now, the Buddha is in Shambhala, which is in the Gobi Desert on the etheric planes. You can't just walk there and stumble across it, but it's the planetary center where the will of God is known. The spiritual hierarchy is the planetary center where the love of God is known. And then humanity is the spiritual center where the intelligence of God is known. They're all working in, eventually toward the point where each center will start to fuse with another center. So the first of it will happen between the spiritual hierarchy and humanity will basically become one center within the logos on this planet, which is the ensouling being of this planet. And then eventually those two centers, which became one, will eventually become one with the highest center on this planet, which is Shambhala, which we got a ways to go. As they say, baby steps. It's going to be a while before we get there, I guess is my point. But thank you very much for the question. And I, like I said, hope that clears up any confusion. If you want to know more about that, I would definitely read more about this in Benjamin Creme's books, because he talks, not at great length, but he does talk about it. And I would say that, to think that Maitreya is leaving for higher work or a different type of work, that he's not going to be dealing with humanity, is not true, because his he was the first of the masters to come back into the everyday world after being away from humanity for over 100,000 years. But he will not leave humanity and go off to higher work, like I said, for another 2,000 or so years. But the masters will be working directly with humanity from now on. So anyway, appreciate you. And thanks for the question. All right, Philip, you were talking about one of the photo on the video I put, A Master Speaks, The Coming of the Great Lord, which is the chalice by Benjamin Creme. And it's on the cover of his book, Reappearance of the Christ and the Masters of Wisdom. What did you have to say about that? You said, I went to see this painting when it was on exhibition in London, a powerful experience. And from what I understand, it's a huge painting, right? I mean, it's like several feet by several feet. I have the litho of it. I look at it every day. I love that painting. But the chalice, from the mystical view, is looked at as a cup, the cup that Jesus drank during the Last Supper, right? The chalice is the love nature of the Christ, and that's what that painting represents, is the love nature of Maitreya. But it's, and you probably already know this because you've seen it in real life, is it's actually a cup looking down on the cup. And he said he had this vision before he painted it of it was a cup that was on fire with blue flames, and that's what he tried to paint. And Ben was very good about and very unique in the way that he painted flames, and a lot of his paintings had these kind of flame images on it. Quite extraordinary stuff. But thank you very much for the comment, nonetheless. All right, now, Ray, what did you say? I disagree about the Antichrist, and that's fine. You can disagree with it. I know you don't necessarily agree 100% with what I say, but I do like your comments, and I do like your questions when they come my way. Reread 2 Thessalonians 2, which I'm familiar with it. I guess if you don't believe in the Bible, then it doesn't matter. It's just that you were referencing the Bible. Antichrist is a man. Now, it's not that I don't agree with the Bible. It's just that there's multiple interpretations of the Bible. And I'm not even saying that my interpretation is the correct one. I'm just throwing out a different view. And this is the truth as I see it. Okay, that's it. So I'm not saying that I'm speaking the truth and nobody else knows the truth. Wouldn't claim to know that at all. But 2 Thessalonians says, concerning the coming of Lord Jesus Christ and our being gathered to him, we ask you, brothers and sisters, not to become easily unsettled or alarmed by the teaching allegedly from us, whether by a prophecy or by word or mouth or by letter, asserting that the day of the Lord has already come. Don't let anyone deceive you in any way, for that day will not come until the rebellion occurs and the man of lawlessness is revealed, the man doomed to destruction. He will oppose and will exalt himself over everything that is called God or is worshipped, so that he sets himself up in God's temple, proclaiming himself to be God. And it's interesting. There's a guy that I've been watching these videos, and they're quite entertaining. I don't believe everything he says either, just like you don't believe everything that I say, which is fine, right? But he's convinced that Trump is the Antichrist. Now, if I didn't know anything about this information, I would probably say, yeah, I see that 100%. Because there isn't anybody on the world stage today that thinks he's above. I mean, he's even said he's done more for Christianity than anybody in history. That's more than the disciples, more than Mary, the mother of Jesus, more than Jesus himself. Is that what he's saying? Yeah, that's what he's saying, But I don't think that Trump is the Antichrist. I think he's just somebody who has a tremendous ego and loves to brag all the time. Is he dangerous? Absolutely 100% is what I think, But Maitreya knows the truth, that we all share the same divinity, that not one of us is above or below another one. So he doesn't see himself as either greater than anybody else or less than anybody else. It's just a matter of where we're sitting on the evolutionary scale. So yes, he is manifesting his divinity more than I am. But he would look at me just as he would look at you or Donald Trump or the least educated member of humanity anywhere in the world as being just as divine as anybody else. He loves everyone in that way. He's the Lord of love in that way. So I know people always say, oh, he'll exalt himself, because they're misinterpreting the scriptures themselves. But you can believe what you believe, and that's fine. You know what I mean? I am totally cool with that. I have a different interpretation of Revelation. I don't think Revelation is about the end of the world. I don't think Revelation is a book that should be feared and scared and make someone scared and keep them up at night. It is the most hopeful book in the Bible because it is about the coming together of humanity, building a brilliant golden civilization based on righteousness and truth. Not as it says in the Bible, but as it says in the Buddhist text. But in the Revelation, they talk about the New Jerusalem. And these were all symbols for the coming together of humanity. Even what I just talked about in terms of the chalice, the Last Supper, it was written in the Bible as a symbol for the coming together of humanity under the Christ, and the blessings that came from that meal, and quotations, is a symbol of the blessings that will flow from the Christ to all of humanity, all throughout the corners of the world. In fact, getting back to the whole thing about the first question from James 1 where he was talking about, is Maitreya still ahead of the spiritual hierarchy? And I talked about the different ages, right? The Piscean age and then moving into the Aquarian age, which most Christians don't agree with. But then if you look at within the New Testament, how many different references to the fish, whether it's the disciples, what they did, the fishermen among men. I mean, there's all these different references to fish. And the fish was the symbol for the age-old view and the age-old view of Pisces. And it was like that long before Jesus came on the scene. And then the other thing that's kind of interesting about the Last Supper and about the cosmic cycles and different constellations is Jesus himself said to his disciples, follow the man carrying the bucket of water up the steps and thus prepare the feast. And that's how it's written in one of the interpretations of the Bibles, which aren't all the same, right? Obviously. The other ones have different ones. Follow the lady with the bucket of the water through the door or whatever like this. Was he giving, and I'm throwing this question out there just to, in kind of a rhetorical way, but just to get you to think. Was he just giving these disciples specific directions to where the food was going to be served? Was that what he was doing, or was there a reason why they wrote it in there in that way? Because the age-old symbol for Aquarius is the water carrier. It was a way of Maitreya through Jesus telling his disciples, and eventually kind of in a very oblique kind of way, telling the world that he will be the world teacher for this upcoming age too. You don't have to believe me, Ray. That's fine. You know what I'm saying? I'm just glad that you're joining the discussion when you do. I really do appreciate it, and you always get me thinking with your questions and your comments. But when it comes to the Antichrist, whether you think it's Maitreya or Donald Trump or the King of England or Prince William or Jeffrey Epstein, whatever you think the Antichrist, you have nothing to fear about that. Because there is no Antichrist coming back in that way. Now, if you want to say it's a man, I would say it was Hitler, which is already come and gone. People missed it, just as they missed Jesus, as the Jews missed Jesus in Palestine. You know, it's missed. And if you look at historically at the way that the Christ approaches humanity, he's missed all the time. He was missed in Palestine. They thought he was an evil person, and they put him to death because of it. Maitreya's already back into the everyday world. He's missed in that way because people aren't expecting him to look that way. And yet he still loves people, and he's still teaching people, and still his approach to humanity hasn't stopped. But yet he's totally missed by the vast majority of the population. He could walk into any mall or restaurant or building with hundreds of people and walk right through the crowd, and nobody would recognize him because he does not look the way that people think that he should look. He's not exalting himself above other people so they would recognize him as the Christ. Why would anybody who has this ego to exalt himself even above God be speaking on TV, not using his name, not claiming to be anybody extravagant or extraordinary or even a spiritual teacher, just claiming to be an average, ordinary member of humanity, but a member of humanity who's deeply concerned about the problems of the world? Why would anybody do that? Ask yourself that question. Why would anybody who is truly evil try to rid the world of the evil of hunger or war or terrorism in that way? Those are all evils. Why would evil try to destroy evil? Isn't that what Jesus said in the Bible? Something to that effect? It's the same principle. A tree is known by its fruits, the other principle that Jesus talked about. Just look at what he's saying. Take some of the teachings that I've shared about that Maitreya has given me, apply it to your life and see if it works. If it doesn't work, go right back to what you believe, but you don't have to believe this. But I always encourage everybody, just try some of the teachings that Maitreya says. See if it works for you, Hopefully humanity will do that too and try the principle, just trying it. If it doesn't work, go right back to beating each other up over the head and see if that brings about peace, I guess, But it's almost like, it's the Dilbert comic strip where it said, in the office, they had a sign that said, the beatings will continue until morale has been improved, kind of deal, which isn't going to, obviously improve morale, right? But we have this foreign policy in this country, we're going to beat the crap out of everybody, bomb the crap out of everybody in order to establish peace. It's just as asinine as the beatings will continue until morale has been improved on a Dilbert cartoon. Just as asinine as that. And yet people think that's the truth. And yet when Maitreya offers the real truth that sharing alone will bring about justice and bring about peace, people are like, that's evil. You know what I'm saying? Because we're fed this nonsense, these lies, this misinterpretations of the scriptures our whole life, and it conditions us to look at it in a way that's not real. It's all illusion. I don't have the absolute interpretation of Revelation, what's right and what's wrong. I just know that when, in my heart of hearts, does not have the ring of truth that he was talking about a man, as the Antichrist. Just as the prostitute sitting on the throne drinking the wine, and the kings of the world will betray its people because they're getting drunk on this wine. I don't think that's an actual woman, aka a prostitute, that will eventually take power and all the world leaders will come together and drink from her wine. Ben's master said that was a symbol, that woman was the symbol for the stock markets of the world. And if you look at commercialization and capitalism and the markets, and how even in the United States, both the most extreme left-leaning members of Congress and the extreme right-wing, whatever, it doesn't matter. They're all doing it. They're all getting rich off of their own donors, and then they do, it's legal for them to have insider trading, and then they betray the trust of the people. It's right there in our face as one of the predictions and prophecies of the Bible, but yet people are still waiting for this woman to show up. Do you see what I'm saying? It's the same thing as the Antichrist. It's just you have to kind of look at it and think about it. But like I said, if you think it's a man and that's what you believe, that's what you believe, Ray Ray. I appreciate your question, like I said, nonetheless. All right, now I got an email, and I just want to read. I don't want to read everything. I just want to read the questions that he had. This is coming from Alfred. I really do appreciate these questions. Is the weather performing the way that it is supposed to be this way with time? No, it's not. Is the weather cataclysmic events provoked by humanity's disorderly conduct? Yes. Is the weather acting out something that humanity needs to work on together to push back to buy time? I guess the only way I can really answer it is yes. Is the weather getting worse with each passing year a sign of humanity's past actions, such as the detonation of nuclear weaponry which damaged the ozone? Yes. So every one of your questions, yes. The weather, and it's so funny when I go back and listen to these videos that I put up, I can't help but think that people are thinking about me the same way that people think about conspiracy theorists. Just throwing out this information with no evidence or proof at all. And I can't argue that either way. You just have to you will either believe it or not. That's why I always encourage you to check out the Share International site and stuff like this. But according to the Ageless Wisdom Teachings, there are two parallel evolutions. There's humanity and the devas. The devas do a lot of things, but one of the things that they do is they respond to human thought, for good or for ill. And when humanity is out of kilter or out of whack, or there's a lot of disharmony within humanity, it affects them. And they are the ones that are in control of the nature and the weather. So it causes a lot of, very strong cataclysmic types of storms and those kind of things. It's all coming from humanity being out of balance. It's what you sow, you get back. We think we're totally separate from not only each other, but even from the environment. That's why we harm the environment in the way that we do, and we think that we can do it with impunity. But we can't. When we harm the environment, it's harming us, and that's what happens. When the United States goes and attacks Iraq, it affects the weather patterns over here in the United States. They become stronger. That's what happened with Katrina. Katrina was karma for what we were doing in Iraq. And it's just boom, boom. And we don't realize how fast it comes back sometimes and why we're having it. Our world leaders are totally, for the most part, not all of them, but for the most part, are totally ignorant of the laws of life. That's why they're going to look to Maitreya. It's going to help out a lot when they look to Maitreya, who knows more about karma than anybody in this solar system, according to the masters. We'll be able to explain it to them in very simple terms. Everything that we say, do, and think comes back to us for good or for ill. And it creates our whole life. That's why it's so important to live harmlessly as individuals, as groups of people, and even as nations, and then eventually as the world itself, right? Now, when it comes to pollution and climate change, right, the masters say it's 80% caused by man and 20% of natural causes. So it would have gone up either way, but just not as much and not as extreme. And so we need as a humanity to know how to live and work and function without causing that. That's the problem, right? Now the masters already have plans in place to help, and to bring us back from the precipice, from the ecological precipice. We are also fortunate because the higher members of humanity from Venus and Mars are working in our atmosphere in their UFOs, cleaning up the atmosphere that way, and that's buying us some time. So the other one that's really dangerous, and it's more dangerous as climate change is, and no environmentalist talks about it, it's nuclear radiation. That is the single biggest thing that's killing all of the world off. Humanity, the lower kingdoms, plants, bees, everything, sharks in the water, all that kind of stuff. We're all getting to the point where we can't take it anymore, and it's killing us. The radiation that is such a problem is not on the physical plane of solid, liquid, and gas. It's on the physical plane of the etheric, which is slightly above gas. Very light and fine. It goes right through the lead and the concrete containment. It goes right up into the upper atmosphere, and it's so light it goes way up to the high parts of our atmosphere. So every drop of rain that hits us on the head, that fills our streams and our lakes, and we eventually drink it, is all saturated with nuclear radiation. It's awful. You could close your windows, tape it up, put cellophane over your windows. It doesn't matter. That radiation is so fine it goes right through the walls. So no extreme, survivalist bunker is going to save anyone from radiation. The only thing that's helping us live up until this point is that we're getting help from the Maitreya, and Maitreya asked the Space Brothers to help us in this way. And we're being helped by our Space Brothers in these UFOs who clean up our atmosphere all the time. That's the magic of it. It was interesting. I saw this video. Hopefully it's true, but it was right when the lockdowns happened in COVID, and there was just hundreds and hundreds of UFOs flying through the atmosphere. There was somebody took a video of it. And I just remember how fast the atmosphere was clean by just not everybody driving all the time. I mean, it was like here in Atlanta, the air was sweet. I was walking and I just kept opening my mouth and tasting the air. I've never tasted air so clean ever in my life. And it only took a couple weeks to clean it. So once humanity realizes the danger that it's putting itself in, because Maitreya is going to shine a spotlight on that problem, our world leaders are going, what do we do? You know what I'm saying? How do we get out of this mess that we put ourselves in? And he'll have the answer to show us, like, hey, this is what we need to do. And then it'll be up for humanity and everybody for us to do it. You can try to do something now individually for yourself, but it's not going to ever be enough. You know what I mean? We have to do it as a whole humanity. The good news about the problems that are facing the world, such as the environment, is they're bringing forth the truth within humanity that we are one. Because these problems, such as the environment, are affecting every single person without exception. It doesn't matter whether you're Jeff Bezos or you're literally starving to death in Africa. We're all getting saturated and bombarded with pollution. It's making us all sick. And it doesn't matter where you go. I mean, every time he gets in that huge yacht of his and with Lauren Sanchez, his girlfriend, and they jet set wherever they go, it doesn't matter. The pollution's there too. You know what I'm saying? You can get as far away from a city as in China or the United States or whatever the most polluting countries are and be sitting on a beach and you'd be like, wow, this air is really clean. But yet it's still saturated with nuclear radiation making you sick. That's why people are always so tired all the time. I always ask people, how you doing? Tired. I'm tired. I'm so tired. I'm just tired. It's because our immune system's getting bombarded with all the pollution out there. It's crazy. But at the end of the day, Mr. Alfred, we're going to get through this. And because the problem will show that it's for all of humanity to fix, Maitreya says we'll learn our lesson and we'll never find ourselves back at the precipice again. But we have to do one thing as a humanity first before we can do anything. Before we can fix the environment, before we can travel to the stars, before we can, learn from Maitreya in that way, we have to accept the principle of sharing first. That's the only way. Maitreya said it's so simple, and you can't put it any simpler. Without sharing, there will be no justice. Without justice, there will be no peace. And without peace, there will be no future. There's no other way around it. We can't wiggle our way out of it and say, well, we won't do sharing this time. We'll do something different. We have to do the principle of sharing. There's no other way. The problem of the environment will not get solved until nations learn to trust one another slightly better than they do now. And the only way to bring about trust is to bring about sharing. It was shown to us in the Marshall Plan, 75, 80 years ago. It only happened for just a little bit of time, and every single nation that participated in that has not attacked another nation that participated in it. Not one. Imagine what would have happened in the world had we started the Marshall Plan all over the world with every nation and never ended. We would be living in a totally different world than we're living in today. You can't argue with it when you look at it. That's why I would say investigate this information, but especially the priorities of Maitreya. Investigate it. Investigate the teachings of Maitreya. Investigate that and see if it works, Try honesty of mind, sincerity of spirit, and detachment. Really meditate on it and see if it actually helps. A simple thing that Maitreya showed me, I never judge anyone on whether they're good or bad. I only notice the good things that they do. That's what he told me. Try it. See if it works for you. Try it for 6 months. What's the worst that's going to happen? You know what I'm saying? And see if it doesn't change the way that you view other people and they view you, right? But hopefully humanity will eventually listen to Maitreya and say, okay, we'll try the principle of sharing. Let's just try it for a year and see what happens. It can't be worse than it is now. You know what I'm saying? And where people get mixed up with revelation is they think that peace will never happen because they think in the Bible, they're reading into the Bible something that's not supposed to be there. Or they're reading something in the Bible that's written in a way that, yeah, I could see where you're coming from, but that's not what they meant. You know what I'm saying? Jesus demonstrated what it meant to love one another, to be tolerant of one another. Everything else in the Bible doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? That is the most important thing in the Bible, was how to love one another. Maitreya and these masters, including Jesus, are going to be here teaching us how to do that in modern times, but all over the world. And again, it starts with sharing. Jesus talked about sharing. He didn't talk about it globally because they didn't know that there was a globe in that way. They just knew about what they were living in the world that they were living in at that time. Maitreya now is speaking to the whole world. That's why the words are different. It doesn't denigrate what was the truths in the Bible. It just adds to it. It elaborates on it. It makes it more up to date and those kind of things. And you see what I'm saying? But we are connected to our environment, Alfred. You are right to ask those questions. You're right to be concerned about it. But you don't have to fear it. Maitreya says all will be well. All manner of things will be well. I love you guys. You guys have a wonderful day. Thanks for letting me get on my soapbox here for a little bit. Ray, if you're listening, it's good to see you. And everybody else that posted comments and asked questions, James Wambidi, I really do appreciate it as well. Thank you so much. You guys take care. Enjoy the day. Talk to you real soon. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.